Hi everyone, and first of all, Happy New Year. I really hope that 2017 will be amazing for you and that no matter how good or bad 2016 was, 2017 will really be everything that you want it to be. Also, I would like to apologize for the delay between our last video and this one, but at the end of 2016 I had to defend my doctoral dissertation and obviously I had to prioritize that over pretty much everything else in my life. So without any further ado, I really hope that you'll enjoy this interview that I did with Troy Donockley, the multi-instrumentalist in Nightwish. I did it at the beginning of December of last year, but as I said before, we had to push a lot of things back as a result of what was happening. So I really hope that you enjoyed, and once again, happy 2017.
The deepest solace lies in understanding. This ancient unseen stream, a shudder before the beautiful.
Troy, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Very well. How are you? How's the weather out there?
Yeah, well, the weather is shit here, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. It's grim here. It's freezing cold, and we've had massive storms. So it's it's just awful. I like the wildness of it, but it does. But then again, I mean, I've spent the last 18 months traveling around glorious countries like Chile and Argentina and Japan and nice hot places, and Australia, of course. So I'm probably, if I'd been here for the last 2 years, stuck in this weather, I'd be a bit different, in my opinion.
Speaking about traveling the world, although you've been officially with Nightwish since 2013, you've been with the band in one capacity or another since 2007's Dark Passion play. Now, in very general terms, tell me about your experience with Nightwish, particularly considering that your background was much closer to folk rock and to folk music, and then suddenly finding yourself in a band that, at least within this area of heavy metal, is one of the largest.
Yeah, it's a curious situation that I found myself in 2013, because sure enough, the Dark Passion play was my introduction to the band. I mean, it was my introduction to symphonic metal. Now, though I've always been into folk music, folk rock music, I was heavily as a youngster, I was heavily into progressive rock, and I was into lots of Floyd and Zeppelin and all that stuff, and a lot of the stuff that my dear friend Marco in the band was into, some of the late early kind of hard rock stuff. But I never saw myself. I didn't see this coming, joining Nightwish as a full-time member, because I thought, well, I played the Celtic instruments, and there's only so much of that you can do. But then it became clear that the complexion, the landscape was starting to change within the band. I'm sure you're aware of the history of the band and how it's worked, but on the Imaginarium tour, things started to change. I mean, not only we have personal problems, cataclysmic problems that thankfully have been they're in the past now.
You mean when Annette Olson left?
Yeah. All that stuff that happened in America. It was a terrible, terrible time. But through sheer love of it, really, love of playing together, we managed to kind of navigate our way through that problem. But getting back to my personal feelings on joining Nightwish, I didn't see it coming. I didn't expect to join Nightwish, but it was that change within the band on the Imaginarium tour, and the direction which made me realise that my true musical self could flower within the band, which is as a multi-instrumentalist, not just as a guy who plays the pipes and whistles, but plays lots of instruments. So I found myself on this tour, the Endless Forms, the Most Beautiful tour, playing electric guitar on 4 songs. I'm playing electric bazookas on 3 songs. I'm doing lots of vocals, lots of backing vocals, that kind of thing, which is only going to get more as the band moves forward. So to me, I could see that not only was it more interesting for me, but it also helped the band in that it gives the band more colours. More colours for the palette, more colour for Nightwish, lots of different musical flavours to be added to this already sumptuous feast of a band. So it's so when they asked me to join, I had no hesitation because I felt like I was part of the family. I mean, I felt like I was part of Nightwish years ago because we all share a similar attitude towards music. We all share a similar attitude towards the joys and the misery of touring as well. We all feel the same way. So it's a very, very easy working relationship we all have because, put quite simply, we all love being around each other and we have a fantastic time. So hence I joined, and I've had the most fantastic 3 years since becoming an official member. And let's see what happens in the future. You know, we intend to do a lot more. I mean, it's a wonderful thing for me and Empu to get 2 electric guitars into the band. So that opens up lots of possibilities for some of the older material, you know, with twin guitars with the guitar harmonies, stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say to you is it's all very exciting. It's all working. We're all really happy with the state of the band at the moment, hence our new DVD being called Vehicle of Spirit.
You know, I really appreciate that totally subtle segue into the DVD there.
Good.
Well done, sir.
Good.
You know, perhaps this is a bit of a bizarre question, but because of your different musical background, do you feel that in a way you are playing a part in Nightwish, or do you feel represented by the kind of music, you know, the symphonic metal that the band plays?
I think you're absolutely right. I think your first observation there is correct. There are changes going on in Nightwish, and I am part of that. I'm definitely part of those changes. We all introduce each other to different types of music. I was introduced to symphonic metal by Nightwish. I'd never heard of Nightwish before I went to the session in London. Never heard of them. I'd heard of them through Pip Williams, the guy who does the orchestrations. He'd sent me a copy of Once. He just went, check this band out, you know, you might like it. I know you're into progressive rock. He said it's like symphonic metal, and I thought, oh, that doesn't sound my kind of thing.
Or close to progressive rock at all. I know you like King Crimson, so check out Nightwish. It's kind of a weird thing to say to anyone.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you know, to me, there is a connection. And I think the connection is honesty, fearlessness, and not being scared to experiment. You know, King Crimson and Nightwish, I think there's a lot more in common than not, in that King Crimson don't care about what people think. They don't write the music for anyone. They do it because they have to. And in Nightwish, we're not pressured into singles or trying to rehash the same old stuff all the time. You know, it's not like the record company's constantly saying, let's have another Nemo or let's have a whatever. We genuinely do what we want, but no, it is an interesting point you made there. But for me, they taught me. I mean, it was through my friend Thomas that I've discovered lots of really interesting left of field stuff, and vice versa. I've introduced him to lots and lots of really left of field stuff from the areas that I was really interested in as a kid. You know, some progressive music, but also some progressive folk rock music and stuff like that. So we've bounced off each other, and the same applies to all the members of the band. You know, we sit on planes. You know, I'm sat with Kaitsu, going, "Hey, check this out." You know, on the iPod, and he's off going, "Wow, I must get that," and that's how we kind of work.
So there's a sort of cultural exchange between the members then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to put it. It's like a cultural exchange.
I also think that it has gone beyond just the musical aspect, though. I think that philosophically, you've also found yourself a nice group with Yuka and Tuomas in regards to secularism, for example.
Well said. Yeah, absolutely. Really quite deep. I mean, our friendship has been fired by these ideas, these deep, in-depth discussions about these subjects, and because we're all such close friends, we have no egos on this. We have no axes to grind. We have nothing to assert to each other. We just like to talk to each other. And the whole the philosophical side of things that you just touched on, that naturally comes out when you're with your best friends for a long time, and especially if you sat in hotel rooms with fine wine and really good books, and you've got access to the internet. You can watch fantastic footage of the likes of Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins on YouTube, or whatever it is, or Cosmos, Carl Sagan, all this wonderful stuff. So yeah, we have had that as well. Again, that's something that's compounded the whole thing over the last 3 years.
Speaking of Dawkins, one of the interesting things about Vehicle of Spirit, your new DVD, is that it captures, among others, the performance at the Wembley Stadium, where Richard Dawkins actually delivers some of the narration he did in the album Endless Forms Most Beautiful.
From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful. And most wonderful have been and are being evolved.
How did this collaboration, his appearance at the stadium, come to be?
Well, that's wonderful, because let's just backtrack a couple of minutes to when me and Yucca and Thomas were sat in a hotel room in New Zealand with a bottle of fine Shiraz, talking about the book, The Magic of Reality by Richard Dawkins, and of course the God Delusion and the Selfish Gene. And we were talking about these things, and we went and watched a couple of his lectures, and I stupidly, after a couple of glasses of wine, said, well, we all thought, wouldn't it be incredible if we could get Richard Dawkins on the new album? And we just kind of laughed and went, yeah, it would be, yeah. And then I decided, stupidly, to promise that I would find him and get him on the new album. And then, of course, I woke up the next morning and thought, oh, God, what have I done? What have I said? So I had to go on a quest, a holy quest, to find Richard Dawkins. A bit like Finding Nemo, only not as watery and fishy.
It was really surprising for me, to be honest, because considering that Dawkins does not really seem to be particularly interested in popular culture. I mean, I remember when Bill Maher and Sam Harris were arguing with Ben Affleck about the issue of Islam and Islamic extremism.
I'm asking you, so you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing? That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people.
Right.
And that's a problem.
That's big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like saying those stateless, shifty Jew.
You're not.
But Islam at this moment is the mother lode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have
That's
ideas
just a fact.
like blasphemy.
It is.
It's an ugly thing.
But Nick,
or how about the more than 1 billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punish women, who just want to go to the store,
wait a second. Wait a second.
and don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims do.
Wait a second.
Stereotyping.
Wait a second.
Things, and you painting the whole group religion with that.
No, let's.
And Dawkins eventually, in some other TV show, commented that
Ben Affleck, whom I didn't know, but I understand he's Batman, and he vigorously and rather vitriolically attacked Sam, accusing him of racism because Sam has criticized Islam. And that's a very easy thing to do, but it's a very silly, superficial thing to do because, of course, Islam is not a race.
So I can't imagine him going like, Nightwish? Fuck yes, let's do this shit.
We discovered later that there's similarities to the Ben Affleck situation with music as well. He had no idea. I mean, when we were recording him, we recorded him in just outside of Oxford, and I mentioned something. I said, he was going, oh yes, the orchestra sounds very good. I said, well, the orchestra's our orchestrator. He's called Pip Williams. He's worked on lots of stuff like the Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin, and stuff like that. And he just looked at completely blank. He'd never heard of the Moody Blues or Nights in White Satin. He'd never heard of anything. He'd never heard of Pink Floyd. He'd never heard of anything. He knew the Beatles, and he knows Elvis. But he doesn't know anything really about, and especially, I mean, for him to come into our world, into the world of symphonic metal, I think it only became crystal clear how bamboozled he was by the whole thing when he walked on that stage at Wembley, because he didn't realise just how big it is. I think he really enjoyed it. He loved doing the show, but he was a bit shell shocked by the whole thing. He did not expect it, and the roar from the crowd, he was really touched. And of course, it's the biggest crowd he's ever played to. But of course, just going backwards again, when we were getting back to the question, we sent, me and Thomas wrote a letter to him. We composed a letter and we sent it via a friend of mine, a keyboardist friend of mine, who had a friend who had delivered some furniture to Richard Dawkins' house. So it sounds like we're a pair of stalkers, but it
sounds super creepy, dude.
It sounds really creepy. It sounds like, me and Thomas and Yucca sat outside his house, trying to get a glimpse of him, but it wasn't like that at all.
I'm not judging.
Yeah, you better not. You better not. But we thought the only way to get to him, it's not going to be sending an email to his website. He's not going to take that on board at all. That won't work. So we did, by chance, I happened to have this friend who got his address, and we sent him the letter, and we didn't get a reply for weeks. So we thought, oh well, that's it, finished. We'll have to forget that idea. But then I spoke to my friend again. He went, no, he's a really nice guy. Send him another letter. So we sent another letter, and then we got a reply. But it turns out that his personal secretary was a Nightwish fan. It was really fortunate. So a guy called Rand, he's a good friend to the band now, and when he saw Richard reading the letter, and Richard said it's from some group called Nightwish, he went, I think you should do this. Nightwish it's a really good band. You should do it. And he liked the tenor of our letter. He said that he was really touched by the wording of the letter, and he was intrigued, and now he's a bit of a fan. He loves the album. He loves Endless Forms album, and it was just a roaring success all round. And sure enough, at Wembley we were fanboys. It was to have him on stage with us was quite a pivotal moment for the band.
I remember that when it was announced that he'd have this role in the album, and then when you and Thomas did the openly secular video, some people were quite bothered by this atheistic message or this secular message. Did you notice any sort of backlash during the show itself when Dawkins showed up with people leaving, booing, or anything like that?
A great question, but I'm glad to report no, there was nobody left. There was, I think, once the controversy died down, people started to realise that we didn't get Richard Dawkins onto the album to bash religion. We got him onto the album because he's one of the world's top evolutionary scientists, and the album is about the beauty of science and reason. So
that might be true, but some of the parts that he narrates in the book, some of the parts that he narrates in the album are anti-religious sections from his Unweaving the Rainbow book, about how the beauty of the world doesn't need this supernatural explanation.
Yeah, that's right. And I believe that strongly too. I am an atheist. I'm beyond atheism. I don't even acknowledge the word. But we acknowledge Dawkins for his views on this. The God Delusion is a seminal book. It's a fabulous book.
Well, it's just that together with Letter to a Christian Nation by Sam Harris, I think that it marked the beginning of a more open atheism or open secularism in the 21st century, and it catapulted it into the mainstream. It was no longer sort of a niche thing that people, were aware of its existence, but people were almost ashamed of saying, I'm secular.
Yeah, it made non-belief in God less terrible. It made it more acceptable, because let's face it, we've lived for centuries and centuries with that as the keystone to civilization as it's known. So to have Dawkins come out, and Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris, of course, as well, it's a major cultural shift in the world. So we are excited. We were all of us excited by the whole thing, excited by the writings of Dawkins and Sam Harris and people like that, but also really excited about the science and excited about Carl Sagan's writings, Carl Sagan's Cosmos series, all that stuff, and David Attenborough. So when it came to the controversial aspects of that, with the recording of Richard Dawkins, it was obvious, but we didn't expect it to get such venom from some quarters. You know, some people were like, right, that's it, I'm going to burn all my Nightwish albums.
As you do, of course, you just burn something.
Yeah, as you do, and I just thought, I thought that was a really fascist response, and we could do without those kind of fans. I mean, we don't need those kind of people, but in general, we've had a marvelous response to it. People saying, oh, you know, through endless forms, we've discovered, you know, fantastic books by Sagan and by Dawkins, you know, science books and books on evolution and science. And we've had lots of frustrated Christians and coming out and saying, you know, this has helped me to come out and shake this stuff off, you know, and thank you for bringing that to our awareness. And also that video that me and Thomas did, if you watch that nowhere in there do we bash God. I mean, explicitly.
Some stories from old tribal traditions that were equally as fantastical, weird, and alarming were taught to us as real. So come on in, the water is fine.
My name is Mr. Holopainen, and this is my good friend Mr. Donockley of the band Nightwish, and we are openly secular.
What it's about is how you described it. It's about accepting the world as it is, rather than using a supernatural being to explain it.
You know, I really enjoyed Endless Forms Most Beautiful, and as a person with no faith whatsoever, I didn't have any problems with the secular aspects of it. I sincerely don't care.
We cannot know with certainty if God or Christ exists. They could. Then again, there could be a giant reptilian bird in charge of everything. Can we be certain there isn't? No, so it's pointless to talk about. Now say it with me.
However, did you feel when you present that when you were presenting a message like that you can come off as preachy? I mean, the secularism in the album was just as subtle as the Christianism of Nightwish in 1997 with the song "The Carpenter," which is ostensibly about Jesus Christ. You know, both can come off as quite preachy in nature.
Yeah, and that's an absolutely valid and astute observation, because that's the way they do appear, if that's the way you want to approach them. To us, at the time when this was being constructed, we were just excited. We were excited not about isolating people or upsetting people or upsetting Christian fans or believing fans.
Now, that's not what I said at all.
Oh no, I'm not. No. I'm not saying that you do. I know that you don't. But in reply to some of the responses we got, because we did get a lot of responses, but only until the album came out, and then we didn't have any more negative responses because basically they were expecting Richard Dawkins to be on the Nightwish album going, God does not exist, you're all insane, you're all lunatics if you believe in fairies.
If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works, bitches.
And he didn't. You know, what we had was him saying beautiful, universal things, statements of universal beauty and actual love. So you couldn't criticize them. They weren't. It wasn't explicit atheism. It was basically humanism. Really, it was universalism, and that's what comes out of. For me, that's what comes out of facing the world and life as it really is.
Having said all of this, I think that it's great that this secularism is being put out there. Because in metal there is this bizarre thing where it is okay to bash religion. It is okay to have any kind of crazy, misanthropic, satanic bullshit message. But you don't really see a lot of acceptance towards, nope, I really don't believe in anything at all. No, that's it.
Yeah. You're listen, that's absolutely right. It's a bizarre paradox, isn't it? That's rife in the scene. So you can get the most terrible misogyny and ludicrous satanic nonsense going on, and nobody really cares, you know. But attack something that's mainstream like religion, and you've got it. You know, you put your head over the parapet, as they say.
At least when it comes to heavy metal, I think that it's not so much about the attack against religion, but about the lack of religion that weirds people out. I think that it doesn't have a clear niche in music. It was nice to see that Nightwish was tackling that.
Well, I'm really glad that you did, and we've had a similar response from other educated people on this, that they can see the difference, that this isn't a gimmick. It's not having some naked woman sprawled across some tombstones covered in blood.
You could combine the two, though.
Well, we will on the next album. That's our next plan. But no, it's we took it very seriously, but we took it very seriously from the standpoint of excitement and exhilaration. You know, we were exhilarated by the subject, and we still are, and we will continue to be so as well. It's a kind of life change. You know,
I think it's also nice to see the plasticity of the members of Nightwish. You know, right now Marco and Flor, for example, participate in Raskastajoula, the Christmas concert in Finland. So it's nice to see that on the one hand, they don't entrench themselves within the philosophy of Nightwish, and on the other, that art can be separated from whatever personal beliefs anybody might have.
Absolutely. But it is. But don't forget, myself, and especially me and Thomas are huge Christmas fans. We love to sing Christmas hymns. We love to sing about baby Jesus in the manger. We love all that. We love the whole Yuletide experience. Just because you don't believe in supernatural beings doesn't mean you can't enjoy culture. You know, especially old ancient ritual. You know, there's nothing like walking in a church that's candlelit, listening to a choir sing. It's a beautiful, life-enhancing thing, and it's part of our world, and that's a wonderful thing. But it's like you don't have to. You can listen to, say, the soundtrack to Superman, or the soundtrack to Lord of the Rings, and not have to believe that those people are real to love those soundtracks. But it's like religious music. I love choral religious music. I love to hear the mass. I love to hear the mass. But again, as I said, I love to hear the music from Star Wars, and that's fictional, just as fictional as the Bible.
Well, it's an essential part of Western culture, the same way that a call to prayer from a minarets is part of Arabic culture. You can separate the art from the people behind it, or from the philosophy behind it. That is, of course, not to mention that a lot of religious music is the result of the fact that for a long time that was the only music that would pay the bills for the performers.
Absolutely, precisely, and that's the humanistic way of looking at it. You see, the music exists despite faith. I mean, people go, oh, well, Haydn created the creation through his faith. The music itself is despite the faith. It's the same as call to prayer. It can sound beautiful, and I've heard it in Jordan. You know, I've heard it in the streets, and it does sound beautiful, even though the message behind it is deeply pernicious and malignant. You can still, the music itself, the sound is evocative and beautiful, and that cannot be just discarded. It is a beautiful thing, and the same applies to all music, you know, and that's how music as an art form transcends the culture and the self it comes from, for me.
I think that is precisely what you get to see in a Nightwish show, and which those who haven't had the chance to do will be able to see with this DVD. I think that the inspiration that you gathered from nature, from science, creating this beautiful music, this beautiful stage show, it's just really evident there, and it shows how beautiful art comes not just from religious inspiration.
Well, that was a lovely review from yourself, and that's.
I'm just saying it because you're here. I'm just trying to be nice.
No. I can sense that you're an honest guy, and that you've got clear opinions on stuff. So I appreciate what you've said, because that is, in truth, what we intend to do. That's our raison d'etre. That's our drive, is to not only seek out freedom and happiness within ourselves and within our band, but also try to convey a bit of that excitement of this love of this life to our wonderful, wonderful fans out there who love what we do. And Endless Forms Most Beautiful is that. And of course, this also spills into, I mean, a lot of people know why it's called Vehicle of Spirit. You know, there's the connection there.
Actually, I have no idea.
Well, that's good, because that means I can tell you why it's called Vehicle.
Oh, you should. You should. You absolutely should.
Right, here we go. Right, the reason it's called Vehicle of Spirit is that back on the Imaginarium tour, we were playing in Los Angeles, and I invited a friend of mine. He's a keyboardist. At the time, he was playing with Joe Cocker, the legendary blues singer. And I invited him along to see us, and he was curious to see what I was up to. And I said, well, come and see the band. So he came. Now, he was expecting something. He was expecting a straight-ahead metal band. He was expecting the Star of Astaroth and a naked woman covered in blood kind of stuff. And he was in for the shock of his life. He came to us after the show, and he was visibly shocked. And he said, I just did not expect that. You know, he didn't expect the subtlety within the band. He didn't expect the intricacy of some of the music. He didn't expect the symphonic elements. Because he came to it cold. You know, he had no idea what we were doing. He just knew that his friend was in the band. So then he sent me an email, just waxing fanatical about how wonderful the night was. And he described us. He said that the connection between us on stage was like no other band he'd seen. He could sense something coming from the people. And he called us a vehicle of spirit that defies category. And that was the most beautiful bunch of words. And when I told Thomas about it, he kind of flipped out on how beautiful it was too. And we did use the phrase vehicle of spirit on the back of a T-shirt on the Imaginarium tour, but it just kind of fell into the past, into a dusty cupboard, and we didn't think we'd use it again. But when we tried to come up with a title for this new DVD, we thought, what would express the way we all feel, the way we all are at this moment in time within the band? And Vehicle of Spirit, it just had to be. It says it all, Vehicle of Spirit. But as I said, that definitely describes us as a band, but it also describes the fan base as well. I think it's a lovely title for a live DVD or an album.
In regards to the fans, you're definitely right. I've been a metal fan most of my life, and I've been writing about heavy metal for about 5 or 6 years now, and I think that Nightwish fans are incredibly devoted.
Yeah.
I mean, surprisingly so sometimes. I think that there's a big connection that they feel with the music and the lyrics, and that they feel it represents them to a very deep level.
It does, and this, we see evidence of this constantly, you know, on tour. But we get, the wonderful thing about the Nightwish fans, and you've touched on this there, is they do go deep into it. They do go deep into it. And as a result, they take it very seriously, but at the same time, are very respectful towards it. You know, we don't tend to get too many psychopathic fans.
Too many?
No.
Right, like you just keep the number of psychopaths on the low digits. Cool.
Yeah. It's you can count them on, I don't know, well, a millipede's feet. No, not true. But we get a fantastic connection to the fans, and we do the meet and greets when we're on tour, and they bring us gifts. Really sensitive people who are engaged with every aspect of the band, but not in a really, really weird and creepy way, but in a really sweet way. So they are part of the Vehicle of Spirit as well. That's for sure. So we're lucky in that respect.
Now, by and large, there is no doubt that the vast majority of fans are just amazing, loving people. Having said that, I spoke with Flor Jansen a few years ago, and she said that sometimes it does get weird that fans get a false sense of closeness with you because social media, you know, they see your house on Instagram, what you ate, etc.
Yeah.
So they have you in front of them and think that they're your friend, you know, they're your buddy.
Yeah, I think that's taking it to extremes, isn't it? But it does happen. It does happen a lot, and especially with social media, you can get a lot of troll types who take it as a rejection if you don't answer them personally, you know, because they believe that they've made a connection to you and that you are somehow their personal friends, which is not healthy at all. But we have seen that a lot actually, especially with social media. But getting back to the hardcore fans, as in the fans who are in it for the music mainly, then we we tend to get less of that. We tend to have lots more respect and balance from those fans. But it is a bit disconcerting when you get screaming nutters on the internet being offended at something that you might have said, you know, and being distraught that you don't believe everything they believe.
Or that you didn't acknowledge them. I'm a photographer, and I'm always surprised when I post photos of Floor Jansen or Alisa White-Glutz of Arch Enemy, who gets a lot of creepy people. And I see fans of them talking about them in really bizarre ways, like, "She is my goddess. I love her. I will do anything my goddess says. She's my everything. God, I love you." You need help if you talk like that about someone you don't know.
They really do.
You know, I was photographing Wacken Open Air earlier this year, and I remember that there was this couple at the front of the main stage when Tarja Turunen was playing. And, you know, the people who follow her around from show to show, and I just thought, if Tarja ever shows up dead, I know who did it. I just know it.
Yeah. You find yourself in a cellar hanging upside down with tape over your mouth, you know, because you didn't answer an email or something. But I was walking down the street in, where was it? I think it was Budapest, and a couple of fans approached me, and I was talking to them, and they were talking as if they knew me, and they said, "Don't you remember us?" And I went, "Well, no." And they seemed a bit offended that I couldn't remember them because I'd met.
Troy, it has been a real pleasure talking to you today. I hope that everyone will go out and buy Vehicle of Spirit, which, believe it or not, was, I think, supposed to be the topic of our conversation today.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure you can do some judicious editing to it.
I'll just stick to mentioning that you love Baby Jesus, you have a sociopathic fans, and that you think that the Islamic culture player carries a horrible, pernicious message. I was planning to concentrate on those 3 bullet points.
Yeah, just make sure that's the headline. Troy Donockley of Nightwish says that God is an idiot.
And he loves Jesus and hates Muslims.
Yeah, he hates Allah but loves baby Jesus. Yeah, say that. That'll be brilliant.
Just make Finland great again.
All right, listen, mate. Listen, you have a splendid Christmas time.
Troy, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah, and listen, hopefully I'll see you down the road somewhere. Do come over and say hello to us.
I'll just join the sociopathic crowd and try to get into the dressing rooms. No worries.
Okay, and I'll pretend I've never heard of you as well.
Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, remember to check any of the other many videos that we have here on the channel, as well as going to our site metalblast.net and see what great stuff we have there. Remember that if you want to support us, you can just go to our Patreon and try to keep us alive. We are a completely ads-free publication and we rely exclusively on the donations of our fans. I am Jay for Metal Blast, and until we meet again, stay metal.